What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome back. This is the Fantasy Alarm 2-minute drill. I'm Dan Malin, back after a 1-week hiatus. Many thanks to Matt Sells for covering for me last week, but I am joined, as always, by James Babyface Grande. Recapping Week 13, plenty of injuries, plenty of storylines, plenty of returns to discuss. Grande, how are you doing? How was Week 13?
So, as you and I alluded to, first off, I'm doing well, and happy birthday to you, Dan. I want to start off by saying,
Thanks, man.
you just subtly just mentioned happy birthday to me as the Bruins score a goal down 3-1, and that made you happy. So that made me happy. Dan's celebrating his 25th today, so everyone flood his Twitter timeline with happy birthdays. If you're listening to this,
They're all going to be a day late, but thank you.
It will be a day late for sure. But no, I mean, I didn't play any DFS. I had a pretty successful seasonal week. I've currently moved into top 2, barring Monday's results in the Raz Bowl. I'm second overall. Fantasy Alarm member Kangas Man is third, if you hear that. So we have 2 FA members currently in the top 3 of the Raz Bowl. As it currently stands, obviously things subject to change, but hoping to get. I finished top 10 2 years ago, so I'm hoping to run it back again with another good finish. I think I have the optimal start in that league, Dan. I had the 11th pick, and I went Kelsey first round, Devontae Adams on the way back. I'm pretty sure that is the optimal start. They have 24 touchdowns between the two. And I took Christian Watson on a late round flyer, so all things are working out right now in the Raz Bowl.
What does Watson have, like 8 touchdowns now in his last 4 games?
Yep, 8 touchdowns in 4 games. He is a freak of nature.
I heard he's averaging a touchdown every 4 touches. Talk about unsustainable.
Definitely unsustainable, but like
he just keeps going. Like he
just keeps going. It just keeps happening. Like it just keeps happening, and I think the Packers like realize it. Like. And the second touchdown yesterday was a jet sweep, right? Like they just need to put the ball in the kid's hands and good things happen, and it's just happening. So, yeah, seasonal, great. In the FA League, another win. Pretty much solidifying myself in the playoffs. Other seasonal leagues been good. No DFS for me this week. I took it off. I am playing Monday Night Showdown, unfortunately. I already regret it, but it looked like you had a pretty good birthday weekend in terms of profit over there, Dan.
It was one of those weeks where I didn't put a lot of time or effort into researching. I pretty much woke up on Sunday. I listened to like 2 podcasts. I read Howard's playbook, and I just threw 5 lineups in the Millie Maker, and I did an afternoon lineup that min cash, and I had 3 lineups in the Millie Maker that did overall. And overall, I made like $100 on the day. So I find my DFS performances of late have been better when I've done like minimal research as opposed to like, putting in like 2 hours a day throughout the week and then overthinking it on the weekend. So I've just been trying to condense my player pool, keep it pretty tight, and just do my 5 lineups, and it worked out on Sunday. But we have a lot to discuss, especially out of the Bay Area. Jimmy Garoppolo breaks his foot. He's done for the year. Brock Purdy came in. Completed 25 of 37 pass attempts. That's pretty good, but it was only for 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He was sacked 3 times. His average depth of target was just 5.4 yards, and he was off target on 16% of his pass attempts. More specifically, he was off target on 4 of 9 targets to Brandon Ayuk. Now, I don't think this move to Brock Purdy, and whether he's the long-term solution heading into the playoffs for the 49ers remains to be unseen. The team did also sign Josh Johnson off the Broncos practice squad. But, the change at quarterback, I don't think it negatively impacts Christian McCaffrey. The shallow depth of target is going to turn us more to McCaffrey. He had 8 catches on 10 targets on Sunday, and he's going to be a nice check-down safety net for any quarterback that's starting for the 49ers. I don't think it's that much of a downgrade for George Kittle. He's probably still a top 10 to 12 tight end. We've discussed plenty on this podcast about how the position sucks. So if anything, it just makes him more questionable. But given how much the position sucks, Kittle's still in play. And I'm sure we'll get questions as to him being a start sit going forward. My big concerns are going to be with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. I don't know if Purdy's going to be able to air it out as much. Wasn't the case on Sunday.
Right.
And I'd say Ayuk, for me, arguably becomes fairly unplayable, or would rather have three guys that I trust more than him at this point. Debo is probably downgraded for me to a flex option. It's going to be really hard for me to consider him as a top 20 play. Now, I could see that being the case this coming week in week 14 because there are 6 teams on bye, but really tough to trust anyone completely outside of Christian McCaffrey in this offense. What say you?
So it's definitely CMC as the primary guy here. We know how prolific he is out of the backfield. I guess it's one thing to consider if Christian McCaffrey is at all limited moving forward because he is dealing with the knee, reportedly knee tendonitis, some form of knee tendonitis. Now, obviously, he had touched the ball 25 times. We'll see how he comes out of that. No reports of any injury. But Jordan Mason did get 8 carries, Debo 4. So Brandon Ayuk, looking at ADOT, average depth of target, almost 10 yards, definitely concerning there. Debo Samuel, Dan, this year, 4.4 is his ADOT. I think that plays fine into his rapport, could be like the rapport with Brock Purdy if that is the route that.
Even last year, wasn't Debo's ADOT still something like 2.1 or something? I mean, most of his catches, a lot of his catches actually came right at the line of scrimmage, and then he's just a talented enough player where he just can make the play on his own.
Yeah, I mean, he is a guy who has a lot of yards after catch. Let's see. So this year, you ready? Yeah. So ADOT 4.4, that ranks 98th in the NFL. Where do you think Debo Samuel ranks in YAC, which is yards after catch? If you had to guess. Just guess a random number. I mean, knowing Debo.
Top 10.
Knowing Debo, where would you just take a stab?
6th.
3rd overall. And he's missed time. I think that there is a lot of potential for Debo here. And plus, we have to remember, he got 4 carries in this game. He's a big play threat every time he gets touches on the ground as well. So I don't think it really affects Debo maybe as much as is Debo a top 12 receiver like he was drafted as? No. But a weekly wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside, sure. Ayuk's hurt. Ayuk is hurt, and I have Ayuk in a bunch of different leagues. You love to see the 9 targets, but if Purdy's gonna have problems stretching the field,
when 4 of them are off target, they're useless.
Right. It's gonna hurt. So I agree on Kittle because the position stinks. I agree on McCaffrey if it's gonna be a check down city, McCaffrey's gonna eat, and we could see overall number 1 RB1 season for McCaffrey. And I think Debo's gonna be just fine. But Brandon Ayuk is definitely feels like the odd man out.
I'm going to skip down in our notes real quick because I think this is a decent segue, and we can just be real quick. But Baker Mayfield was released by the Carolina Panthers on Monday. Do you think that the 49ers are going to kick the tires and maybe put a claim in for him? He does have familiarity with Kyle Shanahan's offense. Now, granted, Mayfield has had probably 5 different coordinators throughout his career right now. And, I mean, Mayfield looked good in 2020. He played hurt last year, and then he was just terrible in Carolina this year. But you can make that argument for almost any quarterback in that offense. Would you be interested or think it's an upgrade for any of the players in San Francisco if Mayfield was to be picked up, or should the Baker Mayfield reclamation project just be some other team's problem?
I mean, I just don't know what the upside is. Like, he's looked so bad, and I know you mentioned it. He has had a lot of coordinators to deal with. There was a very good year mixed in there somewhere, right? I just don't know what the upside is. Brock Purdy's been learning the system all year. He was the one they have draft capital in. They kept him over, I forget who their 3rd string quarterback was to start the year. They kept him over the guy that they had.
Nick Mullins, was it?
No, it wasn't Nick Mullins. But whoever it was, Purdy didn't look terrible. He hung in there and it made a big throw on a 3rd down in the 4th quarter. I just don't see Mayfield has to come in. He has to learn the playbook. He's looked bad. What's his confidence level at this point? I think you roll with what you have. Josh Johnson, I think it's $1.5 million if you claim him off the waiver wire. That's what the Niners would have to pay him. Just keep the money. Just keep the money. Like is Baker Mayfield? I'll just flip it around to you, and I'll just ask you: is Baker Mayfield honestly an upgrade over either Purdy or Johnson? I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
Like, did you just say you're pretty sure?
What? No.
Did you say you're pretty sure?
What? No.
No, I probably have to agree with you. I don't think it's a move that they need to make, especially if you're this far along in the season and you just got to win with Purdy on Sunday against a pretty good team. Now, granted, it was a strong defensive effort from the 49ers. Stick with what you got. It sucks that you've lost Lance, you've lost Garoppolo. But hey, it gives you a good look at Brock Purdy. Maybe this is a kid that can get a little more comfortable in the offense, feel, a little more comfortable going deeper. I thought this too. We can harp on a quarterback for maybe having an average depth of target. And for fantasy, you want to see a quarterback airing it deeper. It's better for the wide receivers and all the pass catchers. And I haven't seen the whole game, but if Miami was strictly just giving him the shorter passes and preventing him from throwing deeper, and he was just jumping on board with those shorter pass attempts, and he was successful that way, by all means, take whatever the defense is giving to you.
Right.
Like, that's what Mike White has done in 2 weeks as the just starting quarterback. And, they've gone 1-1, and they almost beat the Vikings. Like, just take what the defense gives you and just make the right play. You don't need to be a playmaker when you have guys like McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, and Ayuk when he's healthy.
Just get him the damn ball.
Yeah, exactly. But let's move on to another injured star quarterback, probably more of a star than Jimmy Garoppolo, but Lamar Jackson, unlikely to play in Week 14, but he's not out for the year, dealing with a knee injury. Tyler Huntley is set to get the start, and for fantasy, this is not really all that bad. Doesn't air it out, but, he was efficient. He completed 27 of 32 pass attempts, 187 yards, but the good thing with Huntley is that he added 41 rushing yards. Now, my two questions for you are, does Huntley's presence mean we likely aren't starting any Baltimore running backs this week because of Huntley's ability to run the ball? And is this potentially a big upgrade for Mark Andrews in 6 games with Huntley as the quarterback? Andrews has 47 catches for 551 yards and 3 touchdowns. Somewhat small sample size, but we've seen the chemistry between these two.
Okay, so for the running back question, I'm interested to see if J.K. Dobbins comes back, because he was officially activated off the injury report. They didn't dress him this game, but they opened his window and he's back. So, will he make his return this week? That only muddies the waters even more. I don't even want to play them to begin with, even without Dobbins, because just look at this mess. Huntley led them in carries with 10. Kenyon Drake 7, Gus Edwards 6. Gus Edwards provides nothing in the pass game. Kenyon Drake gave us 2 receptions in the passing game. And then Justice Hill mixed in there. I don't want to play any of them anyway. Not going to get any better with Dobbins because he's going to be limited upon return, right? The second point is, I think Mark Andrews is fine. You love the 7 targets. The 53 yards is fine. Just hasn't looked the same since the multiple injuries he suffered there, right? Seems to be still dealing with a little bit of one of the 2 injuries that he's been battling. But dude, 9.3 fantasy points in PPR leagues is like a top 12 finish every week in fantasy. Is that the draft capital you paid for? No, but it's still, Mark Andrews is still an advantage. A clear-cut advantage over 97% of the field at tight end. So I don't know if it's an upgrade because him and Lamar have had such a good rapport throughout the years, but the numbers between this in this connection, they don't lie. They don't lie. So it's not a bad thing to have.
Deshaun Watson made his triumphant return to the NFL. Triumphant is one way to describe it. Probably poor usage by me.
Triumphant is the opposite of what.
Yeah, no kidding. First game in about 23 months, over 700 days. Could not have gone any worse. Only 22 pass attempts, and he only completed 12 of them. threw a pick. Thankfully, it was a huge day for the Cleveland Browns defense. But, rust, sure. Maybe that playing against his old team on the road, and there were Deshaun Watson accusers in the stands watching. Maybe he was in his head a little bit, rightfully so, probably deserves it.
Yep.
But with matchups coming up against the Bengals, Ravens, Saints, Commanders, and Steelers to finish the season, how confident are you starting Deshaun Watson, given the schedule for the fantasy football playoffs? And I understand most fantasy managers probably don't need to start him in a standard one quarterback league, but if you've been stashing him in like a 2 quarterback league or super flex league, how good are you feeling about his prospects for the rest of the season?
I don't know. It's a tricky question because there was the obvious potential there was going to be rust. He had not played. Not only had he not played, he hadn't been allowed to practice for 11 weeks, and then he was eligible to return to practice the week prior. So he got 2 full weeks of practice in, essentially. He had the preseason that he was eligible to play, and he had 2 weeks of practice. There's no and this wasn't a situation where he was returning to his old team. He was coming to a new team, a new system. Another week will go by where he gets another practice. I'm comfortable with using him in a 2-quarterback league, especially when you start factoring in the quarterback position as a whole. It's been bad, right? Like, there is no doubt outside of the top, I would say 5 guys, maybe 6 if you include Geno Smith, it has been a position that you have not been able to rely upon. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. I'll throw Justin Fields in there. I'll throw Geno Smith, and then probably like borderline Herbert, Lawrence, whatever. Other than that, who is one quarterback? Tua as well. Who are the other quarterbacks, Dan, that you can confidently say week in, week out, you're comfortable with starting? Like rattle up, like maybe Kyler Murray. Recently, I mean, Kyler Murray has had.
It helps when he's getting, he's had Hopkins for a few weeks now, and he's getting Marquise Brown back.
But let's rattle. Like, I'm just gonna read you the current QB2 range. Okay, these are QBs 13 and below. Aaron Rodgers has a bye this week, so you're obviously starting Watson over Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Carr has been better, so maybe that's a better discussion. He's been a top 15 quarterback 5 straight weeks. Kirk Cousins, he's looked like crap more often than he hasn't. The Vikings keep winning, but it's not because of Kirk Cousins lately. Jared Goff, he's had 1 top 15 finish since week 4.
Mm-hmm.
Jacoby Brissett, not on the team. Or
right.
His backup.
He's just not starting.
Yeah. Garoppolo hurt. Matt Ryan, QB 21. Who are you starting, Watson or Matt Ryan? After what we saw. Russell Wilson. It's just like you just start looking at the landscape of the quarterback position. There aren't a lot of guys that you're starting over Deshaun Watson, unfortunately, especially in 2 QB leagues. Now, like you said, in 1 quarterback leagues, you probably don't need to if it's 12 teams or if it's 10 teams. 14-team leagues, you might need to. I think that the rapport, obviously, with his teammates are going to build. There's a lot of talent on the offense. Deshaun Watson, as shit of a person as he is a very good quarterback and has proven that for a long time. Let's not forget, he also had all of last year. So it's not like he was just like coming back from this suspension and he didn't play at all last year either. So it's going to, maybe a week, maybe 2. But I think just given the options, I don't really see many other better guys out there, especially in 2 quarterback leagues, than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and I'd like to see them. I was actually surprised that even Nick Chubb, we all thought that was kind of like a smash spot for him. He didn't really run all over Houston's defense like we've seen previous teams do. Only 80 rushing yards on 17 carries, and he had 1 of the 22 targets. I am a little optimistic that, Watson can do better, especially when they play at home. I can't believe this, but Amari Cooper has had these really weird home road splits. Had a massive target share on Sunday with 9 targets, but he only caught 4 of them. But I do think that, when they can get this team playing in a home environment, and if they can get David Njoku, I think things will bode much better for the Cleveland Browns passing game. Last but not least, and this isn't really necessarily a topic of discussion, more of me just venting, but I cannot stand the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they are an absolute fraud. I think they're a trap. It's like they pull off a miraculous come from behind win over the Ravens one week, and then they, shit the bed against the Detroit Lions, the worst defense in the league. They put up 14 points. Trevor Lawrence, to his credit, looked like he had a very serious leg injury in the first half, left the game, did come back in the second half, but he only throws for 179 yards and a touchdown to Evan Ingram. Zay Jones, 19 catches in his last 2 games on 24 targets. Comes in and naturally only gets 2 catches. Christian Kirk had himself a fine day. Travis Etienne, I was actually all over him in DFS, and he was one of my few snowflakes that I had.
Yep.
And Miles Turner has been marked out. That's an NBA storyline. But Travis Etienne, I thought he was going to be fine. He even said after last week's game against the Ravens, he could have gone back in, but he missed all of his rookie season with a Lisfranc injury in his foot, and so they didn't want to risk it. And I thought, great, if people are going to be worried about the foot injury going against the Lions, then I'm going to be all over him. And I was, and he didn't do that great. And so it's the second time in the last month I've just believed and bought into the lies surrounding the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I hate this because I actually did get them at like 8.5 to 8, like plus 850 to win the AFC South. I thought it was a great bet at the beginning of the season. And no, they're just falling apart. They're frauds. They're not there yet. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of bitter. I think I'm done playing the Jaguars in DFS.
They are tough, dude, because it's one week it's Zay Jones, next week it's Christian Kirk, sprinkle in ETN. I think that they're vastly improving. I guess anything improves over Urban Meyer, an Urban Meyer coach team. I mean, even the players have said that publicly, where they just roast Urban Meyer at all times. I guess, yeah. We just got to be out until they pull us back in inevitably, right? So, I mean, I think they have all the talent in the world to be a good team, but until they prove it to us on a consistent basis, I am out too. I'm not going to go as far as you, call them frauds, but I will say that I'm out. Dan, I got to ask you one final question, okay?
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to know. Because I mean, me too. Because I just saw a video of Odell Beckham, and he arrived to the Dallas Maverick games tonight with Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs, which it's awesome to see. Is Odell Beckham going to Dallas? And if not, where's he going?
I don't know. Like I haven't followed the Odell saga probably as closely as other people have, especially after the issue at the airport where he was escorted off a plane. Initially, my thought was like, all right, well, that's only going to delay his signing with the team like another 2 weeks.
Right.
And so we're heading into week 14. I initially thought that if he signed with the team ahead of week 13, he probably wouldn't have made an impact until week 15. And so now if he signs with the team ahead of week 14, I don't think he makes a dramatic impact until week 16 or 17. And so I don't really care where he signs. I'm past the point of thinking that he has any
value
fantasy impact in 2022.
None. I mean, he's been open about wanting a multi-year deal. Wherever he goes, he said he wants it.
Now, though?
He's 30. He's 30.
That's not
I mean, you got to think he came out as a young 20-year-old, 21 years old. And yeah, he's seasoned. I'm not saying he's like a young buck, but like he was well on his way to winning Super Bowl MVP last year. And then, he tears his ACL. So like, I don't know. As a Giants fan, there's obviously rooting interest for like a potential reunion past this year, because if there's one thing the Giants desperately need, it's people who can catch the football, because we don't have any of those type of players. So yeah, it's just interesting to see, it's also heartbreaking to see Odell Beckham at a Dallas game with Trevon Diggs and Micah Parsons. So I just thought I'd bring it up. Just, I obviously I want to say I'll answer the question. I obviously want to say that he's going to go to the New York Football Giants, but I am realistic, and I do think if he wants to win a ring this year, he goes to Dallas or Buffalo. He has the visit with Buffalo as well, so I think he ends up with one of those two places. But obviously, crossing my fingers that we have a reunion with Odell Beckham.
I would say if his priority is to get a long-term contract,
he's going to go where the most. I mean, the long-term contract is probably most money / best chance to win, which is probably still Buffalo or Dallas. I mean, Buffalo, you have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs there. New York,
right.
You have Daniel Jones, maybe Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Sterling Shepard, all free agents next year. So
did
like
the Giants pick up the
no.
did the Giants pick up the 5th-year option on Jones?
No, they declined it. So this was a prove a year for Daniel Jones. So obviously,
can they franchise tag him?
I do not believe so. He is an unrestricted free agent because they didn't pick up the option. So the stability of quarterback in Dallas and the stability of quarterback in Buffalo obviously is something. But I'm sure there is the feeling like, oh, this team drafted me. I spent a lot of time with this team. There's unfinished business. That's obviously what I'm hoping for as a fan, because, as drama-filled as it was, Odell Beckham is a special talent when healthy, and he can be featured in this Giants offense mightily because there's no other option. So just my thoughts. I still think he ends up in Dallas or Buffalo, but being hopeful as a Giants fan is kind of where I'm left right now.
Well, Grande, thank you so much for your time recapping Week 13. We will return once again next week to do this all over again for Week 14. Hopefully there are fewer injuries and more positive news to take away. But Grande, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you in Week 14. Best of luck to the FA Nation.